Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful night, day, whatever. So it is time for episode 35 of the Mystery Reviews, and I gave these hints for the movie. One was Evil and Innocence, and the other was Tennessee, the state. And my final hint that I gave was 1817. Now, nobody had really successfully guessed it. And honestly, I don't think many people would have because this movie is not really well known. I mean, it kind of really did skirt under the radar. So, yeah, the movie was An American Haunting, and it was based on the Bell Witch haunting in Tennessee back in the 1800s, where it is the only known case in which a spirit caused a person to die. So, with that out of the way, hello to the one person watching. Good to see you. And let me get my banner up. Make sure that you smash that like button, folks. Share the stream out. It really does help. And Jacob Ironside, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. So, yes, The American Haunting. This movie starred Donald Sutherland, Sissy Spacek, James Darcy, and Rachel Hurd Wood. It depicts a spirit tormenting a family for 4 years and then killing one of them. The movie starts in modern times, basically with a young girl running through the woods, trying to escape some unseen force. So it chases her into her house. It is confirmed to be an unseen force at the time, trying to open a door, and then she looks in a mirror, and then she sees a haunted figure of a ghost in her mirror. She wakes up screaming. Now, one would think that this is where the movie's main storyline would be. This is not. It is a good twist, but it's also questionable storytelling. So her mother consoles her, talking about how her father will be picking her up soon for his weekend with her. And this movie then takes a twist to the past, into the 1800s. One thing I will say that they did very well in this movie is the wardrobe, the look of the time in the 1800s that they did this. It was a time where slavery did, in fact, exist. It was a time where people had slaves and where churches were also held as trials in a sense. So the mother in the modern era finds this doll with a cracked face and a journal with a letter. And the letter is from one of the characters in the past, saying that I hope that no one would have cause to open this letter, but if you do read the contents of the journal, it may just save your life, because the events that happened in 1818 to 1822, or because it was a 4-year torment, is now happening again in the modern times. So then they go back, and you hear the narration of the character that is played by Stephen Darcy. He is he is a teacher in the town. So We then see, or the winter of 1817, where the Bell family is respected, and Donald Sutherland plays the head of that family, John Bell, and his daughter, Betsy Bell, is the other main character. Now, this movie, folks, it gets into some very, very disturbing themes that most parents nowadays would never want their kids to see until they were very old enough. Once the supernatural occurrences start happening, a person can easily feel very uncomfortable with seeing what goes on to a child who is at the time underage. Now, the actress was, I believe, 16 or 17 at the time. But yes, what is depicted is very suggestive and very deeply disturbing. How you doing, Happy and Deej? Good to see you. And Jacob. So the clues for this stream, I'm guessing I'm shadow banned on Twitter because nobody basically showed any interactions with the tweets. The clues were Evil and Innocence and 1817 and Tennessee, and it was based on the movie American Haunting. And that's the one that we're reviewing tonight. Now, there are clues all throughout this movie that are hints as to what happened, the truth behind what happened to this family. Yes, many people are not notified with my Twitter account because, well, I use both PC and phone for Twitter and whatnot. And when I am on PC, I turn the bell on for most of the people who I pay attention to and who also pay attention to me. How you doing, Kamen Rider? Good to see you. And so I am notified of the times that they tweet and whatnot. So all I can really do is ask if you follow me on Twitter. Go to my profile. There is a little bell thing next to the follow button and message button. Click it so that you can be notified of my tweets as you check Twitter in your notifications. It will help with seeing the hints for my future mystery reviews. So, continuing on with the story, there is a church trial between a woman known as Kate Batts, who was seen as a witch in the town and with the town folk, and John Bell. And apparently it was over a squabble over land and earnings from the land. He had paid for selling lumber for or on her land, which she paid. He gave her $100 and the use of one of his slaves, and yet he also charged her at 20% interest. Well, once the church found out about that, they did say that is usury and your reputation is now kind of shit. Well, Kate Batts is like, well, what about the money, or what about the earnings from the money? And he's like, the earnings still retain to John Bell. However, his reputation has taken a blow. That is punishment enough. And I am reviewing An American Haunting, Kamen Rider. Sure. Or this reminds, speaking of a spooky ghost and lewd, did you see The Babysitter in 2005 Amityville Horror? I never saw that movie, to be honest. Happy Dinosaur. But yes, this movie gets disturbing. So after Kate Batts is not happy with the verdict, she suggestively places a curse on John Bell and his daughter. Now, if you have seen the movie, you know that she knows something disturbing about the Bell family and damning as well. Now, after that happens, this is when the supernatural occurrences begin. The house starts shaking and whatnot. And the night before that trial, the mother is hearing inhuman sounds, or what sounds like inhuman sounds. You hear the sound of a girl whimpering and crying and whatnot. And as she's going to investigate, she checks her children, and then she's getting ready to go up to the attic, and her husband stops her, and he's like, you sleep so soundly. You never even realize when I get up out of bed, or you don't even notice when I get out of bed. An American Haunting, generic title, didn't realize you spoiled the mystery. Yeah. Well, I do cover it at the beginning minutes of the stream, or Happy Dino. So, yeah. Cute. Or Bells and not Belmonts, yeah. So, hold on one moment. That is the first clue that there's something weird in the Bell family. When he tells his wife that she sleeps so soundly and that she never noticed him getting out of bed, you wonder what else does he do? Besides keeping his home safe and whatnot. There we go. So, yes, Courtney. So you also get introduced to the character Richard Powell, played by James D'Arcy, who is the teacher of Betsy and the rest of the Bell kids. Well, except for the oldest, who's now above 18 and whatnot. Jesse Girl 10, good to see you. How are you? And once the supernatural occurrences start happening, you see the Bells hearing this growling noise outside. Now, John Bell, Donald Sutherland's character, and his son, John Jr., decide to go out. And while they are looking about, you see, or they're out hunting during the day, and they're hunting for a deer. Well, John Bell sees a black wolf, and he even fires at it when it starts charging at him. Well, then it's not there, so it's a ghostly apparition, as one might automatically assume. First it's there, then it's not. He even shoots at it, and it's like, or he sees the wolf charge at him after he fires, but then when he raises up his rifle, his son is there, and he's like, we got it. He's like, or we got it, Pa. And he's like, the wolf? Wolf, we got the deer. So, yeah. So then you go into the late night stuff where you hear the wolf out there, and even John Jr. hears the wolf. And so they go out hunting it. And you see Donald Sutherland's character walking, and he turns, and you see this very spooky character. Long hair, white gown, glowing eyes, and then it's not there. Now, you recognize the character. You'd think he's seeing a haunted vision of his daughter because it does look like Betsy Bell. And during the times that during the day, she's at school and she's sleeping during the school. Fun fact, wolves love belly rubs. Yeah. Actually, that's actually quite true. I've actually pet a wolf before. So she's no longer interested in the boy that she used to be interested in. Her demeanor is changing, and during the night that John and John Jr. are hunting this wolf, you see the wolf charging at John Jr. or John, Donald Sutherland's character, and he fires again. Well, this wakes up the rest of the family. So the mother, Sissy Spacek's character, grabs the kids. They're heading down the stairs, and then the door gets a hole shot through it. And she's yelling at her husband after the affair is all said and done. And he's like, "We were taken aback. It was a misfire. It was a complete accident." And he does check to see if everybody's safe and whatnot. I mean, this is in the 1800s. Misfires, believe it or not, are kind of common occurrences with rifles back then, especially powder rifles. So, yeah. The next night is when the attack on Betsy happens, where she has her hair pulled and she starts screaming. And during the night where her father was hunting this wolf, where they think this wolf is hanging around the house, well, Betsy looks outside of her door down at the ground, and you see the wolf stalking the house. And it's terrible digital work, but it still is there. And you also see the windows from the wind smash against the frame, and you see her move back, but that's the only reaction you get from her. It doesn't seem as if she is very afraid of it. And she also hears the creaking around her room and whatnot. So then the next day, when she has her hair pulled and there's this being that sits on her bed pushing the bed frame down or the mattress down, and you also get the POV of the ghost when it goes in black and white and moving around ethereally. You see that, or this is the point of view of the ghost. Now, the first appearance of this POV for the ghost, when everybody goes in to see what's going on with Betsy, the problem is everybody's looking at the damn camera. So there's a very big slip of that scene, slip up. And it's like, you're not supposed to be looking at the camera. You're supposed to be looking around the camera, like not directly at the camera. Well, they do. And it's like, how would you lock eyes with a ghost, especially an unseen force? Wolves, much like Pomeranians, are good watchdogs. They warn of danger, get the F out. Yeah. And then the attacks keep on happening. And they do show the passage of time with the seasons changing. It's started in the winter of 1817 and kept on moving between 1818, 1819, and 1820, and then 1821. However, in 1818, they don't really tell you the time that continues to go off. It was a 4-year occurrence, but they don't tell you any more time going by past 1818 that I am aware of. Now, the scenes where Betsy gets attacked by the ghost again, where it lifts her up by her hair, slapping her several times, and then throwing her on her bed. Well, her mother then witnesses this, and her father also witnessed this. And the look on Betsy's face is very suggestive as she is being violated sexually. And it is very disturbing to watch because, well, I know people who have been. And it is not something that anybody should go through, especially at a young age. At the time, this girl is 14 or 15, and she ages up to 18 or by the 4 years that pass, or 19. Anyway, this ghost continues to whisper to her, trying to get her to remember, and she doesn't know what she's supposed to be remembering. Well, they then go to the teacher, and the teacher is trying to rationalize the inhuman occurrences that are going on at the Bell's house, saying that it could be that the creaking is from the wood, from the rain that night, where the wood was causing the wood to swell, and it could have been Kate Batts' slave holding her up. You couldn't have seen her; it was dark in the room. It's possibly one of her slaves was holding her up, and somebody was shooting a pea shooter at her with a hollow reed, or a pea through a hollow reed. They try to rationalize it, and then he says, "I will spend the night at your house to show you that there was nothing going on." Well, then the same occurrence happens again. The same look on her face, the same violation. And John Bell goes to push everybody out of the way and tries to get into his daughter, and the door slams, knocking him senseless, knocking him out and whatnot. So it's then you hear the or the inhuman spirit moving around, and people are reacting to it. And he keeps on seeing and then John Bell throughout further starts seeing his daughter, or this apparition version of her, in a mirror, or not in a mirror, or not just a mirror, but in several different areas where he would look, she's there and whatnot. And then he also notices that when he coughs, he's bleeding. The sickness of John Bell, where he starts getting cancer in his mouth. And he grabs a mirror and looks in it to try to look at the tongue. And then he starts seeing his face rot, and he drops the mirror. And his wife goes to clean it up. He's like, "It's my mess, I'll clean it." Well, she still picks it up. Now, the acting in these scenes are very good. Now, John Bell is absolutely sure that it's Kate Batts that is responsible for this, and he wants to go and kill her. And, well, he stops after his wife says, "Fine, go on and be a fool." But then the occurrences keep on happening, and Betsy is seeing this little girl spirit, this little girl swinging next to her. She can't quite see the face clearly, and she takes Betsy walking through the woods and into a little cave area where she starts splashing water with her, and she looks, and it's a rotted face, a very haunted, rotted face, and she ends up waking up from that, screaming again. I just got the first season of Pete and Pete DVD today, Speaking of horny ghosts, have you watched The Entity, 1982? No, I have not. But yeah, there's a lot of different things out there. No, it's not really much of a horny ghost in this. It's a ghost that is trying to remind Betsy of what happened to her. Because you do realize later on in this movie, she has been molested. And it later is revealed who is doing that to her. Now, John Bell is trying to protect his daughter, as is her mother is also trying to protect her. And she realizes that her teacher, or the teacher, Richard Powell, has eyes for his daughter, or has eyes for their daughter. And he's like, would you marry her to protect her? And he's like, no, I would not. Remember the ghost who gave to him? Yeah, I do remember that. And so he's like, I cannot in good conscience marry her simply to be her protector. And so they're like, we have to get her, or the ghost seems to be only reacting around or in this house. They try to do an exorcism. They try to do all that stuff, and the ghost does not leave. So when they try to, or they're thinking about how to get her out, and you see the whole scenario play out. The ghost is frantically looking around the house and not finding Betsy. So it screams its way out of the house while they're trying to haul her away on a carriage. And this is one of the best in-shot crashes or carriage crashes I have ever seen, because it's all real of how they flip this carriage of where it crashes, because the ghost knocks down a tree, sending the carriage flying and then smashing into another tree. And it's like, holy crap, man. And then the wind picks up, and then you see the Black Wolf going after, Richard and Betsy as they're trying to get away. And as the wolf, or you think that the horse is outruns the wolf, but then the wolf runs right back up, and it's more just bad CGI. And you end up seeing Betsy wake up. Now, when Richard tries to speak to this ghost, it does respond at first. I mean, it pulls a Bible out of one of the preacher's hand, or out of a preacher's hand, and starts ripping the pages out. And he's like, are you familiar with which the preacher reads? And you hear two knocks, and then he starts asking, is it the gospel of this? Is it the gospel of that? No. Then is it one of the Psalms? And it then does two more knocks. Or two for yes, one for no. So then when John Bell is at his wit's end, where the entity is stopping him from not even being able to physically touch his daughter while she is under its control, he goes to try to help her daughter while she suffers, and the spirit is morally attacking him now. So he's at his wit's end, and he goes to Kate Batts, and he's like, exact your pound of flesh. Take your revenge. Just end it. And he gives her a gun. She puts the gun straight to his head, and he's like, lift your curse. And she tells him, I didn't curse you, John Bell. You cursed yourself. Now, one of her slaves also dropped off to the Bell house a bag that had clothes in it. And one was one of Betsy's old nightgowns that went missing a year prior, and John Bell's shirt that went missing a year prior. Well, Betsy's nightgown had blood on it, and they thought that it was animal blood, the slaves. And they said, it's a curse that somebody's going to die. So the mother wants to burn it, and she's like, no, that would bring the devil in. The slave is very frantic, saying, that would bring the devil in. And so John Bell, he actually throws the damn dress into the fire, and that's when it starts attacking him furthermore. Some of the stuff that I am discussing is out of order, so I am sorry for that. Thank you, Happy, for stopping in. Trying to lighten the mood with depressing ass film. Sorry about that, buddy. And hold on one second. There we go. So then we find out the secret, where as she continues to she then starts to remember. And then you also see what goes on. And the ghost even goes after the mother, telling her, you know what happened. And this is while John Bell is now fully in the thrall of his sickness. And you see Betsy start to remember what happened. Well, it turns out that John Bell had raped his daughter, had molested his daughter. And he then takes her clothes, or her gown that she was in, while she's covered in catatonic from what had just happened to her from the trauma. He covers her up and takes his shirt and her dress, puts it in a satchel bag, and tries to dispose of it. Well, it came back to haunt him because it was returned, or it was found in Kate Batts' land, and then it was brought back to them. And after he walks off, you see a ghost of his daughter rise up, and it has the blood on the gown. As it sees him walking away, she says, Mama always was a heavy sleeper. And it shows all the other things that had happened and explain, or basically the explanation part of the film. Well, then, as he's sick in bed, you see somebody come in and offer him soup, or some medicine. Well, he's like that, or he gets the medicine and he's like, thank you. And then he starts dying really quickly, and he looks up and he sees his daughter, because the ghost looks down at her and disappears. Basically, it is explained that the spirit was born of a union of evil and innocence, the evil act of John Bell and the innocence of his daughter. We were born when he took, or the ghost says, we were born when he took her innocence. So then you also see, after Betsy kills her father, poisons him with overdose of that medicine, and you see the mother watching, and then you see all the hints that she was given. You always do sleep soundly, and she hears the whining and whatnot. There was one time where she actually went in with a candle, saw her father, or saw him in her room reacting to her, and she backed up because she thought she saw a ghost or something, and dropping the candle, and the fire from the candle kicked up. Now, there was also one scene in this movie that was actually really interesting, how Betsy's room starts heating up. The Bell Witch. Yes, the Bell Witch. This is about the Bell Witch, this movie, An American Haunting. Now, that scene where the room basically, or the spirit flash burns 2 candles on her or in her room, where it causes the candles to burn with such heat that it rapidly boils down and then causes her and her friend to collapse while her friend's trying to get out the window, and the spirit throws something at the friend. Now, one of the things that I didn't like about that scene was they don't really tell you what happened to the friend afterward, except for the scene where the ghost is talking to everybody when it is invoked again. Couldn't remember the name of the movie. Yes, Jesse's Girl. Or it is An American Haunting. Now, then after John Bell is buried, you see Betsy looking down at his grave, and then she looks over to the side, and you see the ghost that had been haunting her look up, and it no longer has a haunted look, and it is a younger Betsy. It is the same face of Betsy. And she realized that the ghost was her younger, innocent self. Now, snap to the present of the movie, or to the present, where the mother was reading the story. And you also saw in the beginning, Betsy had married Richard Powell, her teacher. And even though he was 20 years her senior. Believe it or not, marriages back in the 1800s were common like that. Hell, they were even common in the 1900s. But anyway, you then see the mother or the daughter coming into the room saying, "Daddy's here," and she's like, "Okay," and you see the daughter get into the car with her father. And then you see her close the door as she receives a package. She looks up and she sees Betsy's ghost, and it's saying, "Help her, help her, help her." And then she realizes, oh dear God. She goes out, or she opens the door, and she sees her daughter look back with a very worried expression on her face. Well, she just realized that, or she goes screaming after her ex-husband as he's driving off, screaming his name, realizing that her daughter is most likely being molested too. And then it goes to the credits. Now, as a film and story goes for the score, I would actually give this movie around a 7. It barely passes. It's definitely full of jump scares and whatnot. It's a very frightening story in some ways. However, there are some people who might find the reveal of what the ghost is to be disappointing. I don't know how faithful the story adaptation to what happened in the 1800s in Tennessee about the Bell Witch is true, but I will say that the story itself is compelling enough. And if you can deal with a little bit of a crappy CGI wolf and such, it does a decent job at telling the story and whatnot. The acting is actually very well done. Sissy Spacek and Donald Sutherland are top tier actors. And Rachel Hurd Wood, I haven't seen much of her in any film other than this, so I wouldn't be able to say, but her acting in this movie portrayed a character who had repressed a very evil act against her, as did her mother repress the memory of witnessing it. They all did this movie very well. I think that subjectively, this movie is around a 9 out of 10. They could have definitely done the CGI a little bit better. And if you can actually get past the disturbing insinuations of this movie, you might find it more stomachable or able to stomach it more. When it comes to child molestation and whatnot, these are not movies that are meant to be rewatchable, or because honestly, when I saw this movie last before I saw it to review it, was the first time that I'd seen it, and it was disturbing, or as disturbing then as it is now. Like I said, I know people who have been molested at a young age. I have heard their testimonies of what had happened. It is not something that is easy to see, hear, or any of that. Moviegoer. If you like horror movies and whatnot, this movie is for you. 10 out of 10. Me, I'd put this movie at a moviegoer score of 9 out of 10. There are parts of it that take you out of it. There are parts of it that make you go like, oh my God, they actually went there. And there are parts of it that are fucking scary as hell. But for the most part, this movie is pretty solid. Sure, the story does kind of fall short. However, they did do the period part of it very well. Anyway, folks, that is going to lead to the conclusion of the scoring. The hints for the next movie are Thomas Jane and Aliens. Now, this could mean 1 or 2 different films he's been in, because he's been in a couple or more where there are aliens in the movie. I'm not going to tell you what they are. You'd have to figure that out for yourself. Now, if you know it, do not spoil it. I will put the hints on Twitter tomorrow after I wake up. Also, stay tuned for my stream tomorrow at noon. I will be going live to talk about my own jail experiences and the news surrounding Jussie Smollett and his current incarceration. So, if you want to tune in for that, it's going to be noon Eastern Standard. Believe me, folks, the video that I did earlier today on the reporting of Jussie Smollett, you saw that I was very upset if you've seen the video. I will be most likely very upset doing that stream, because this whole thing about Jussie Smollett and the dangerous precedent that his legal team is doing, well, let's just say that it's personal for me. Anyway, folks, thank you for tuning in. Jesse's Girl, Happy Dino, Deej, Jacob Ironside, and Cayman Rider. Thank you all for tuning in. I will most likely do my mystery review at night, 9 p.m. Next Tuesday. Stay tuned for another possible mystery review discussion in the future. I'm trying to get another YouTuber to join me for a special mystery review. And once that becomes when that becomes I'm not really a horror movie fan, later Orange Hat. It's all right, and take it easy. If it becomes a certainty, I will give you more information. But yes, I'm hoping to have another YouTuber on for a mystery review, like I did with Mara Jade a while back. So yeah. Anyway, folks, that is going to be the video. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What did you think of this review? What did you think of the movie An American Haunting, if you have seen it? Let me know all your thoughts, folks. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.